Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast. This is going to be the pre-Paris prediction episode. In this one, we're going to be doing what we always do. We'll be talking about roster changes. Well, not technical official roster changes, but some maybe roster rumors and news, as well as my predictions for the upcoming Paris event that is coming up here in a few days. We just uploaded that video yesterday, I believe it was, at the time of this video being uploaded. That was my reaction to the Minnesota event, as they're happening in back-to-back weekends like we mentioned there. So things are a little kind of tightly put together. But yeah, in this one, we're going to be talking a bit about the roster news that I've heard a little bit about and my predictions, like I said. So first, before we get into any of that, I'd like to kind of say this event would have been another kind of special one to me, kind of like the Minnesota events. It happens, obviously, the Paris event happening in Paris. When I was a junior in high school, I had the opportunity to go to France for 2 weeks with a bunch of my classmates. 1 week was with a host family, and then one was in Paris and other like major cities, seeing kind of like tourist attractions. And it was awesome. It was 2 of the best weeks of my life, probably the best vacation I've ever been on. It was just awesome to see a new country. It was the first time I had actually traveled outside the U.S. Every other vacation I have been on has been inside the U.S. So this was the first time I actually traveled out of the country and kind of was thrown into a completely new culture and kind of got to experience it. And it was super awesome. So Paris has always kind of been like, along with London, a COD event that I'd always loved to get to. I wanted to go to ESWC, but obviously being a pretty young kid, I didn't really have the money to pay for a trip to Paris or to France in general, or London. And now being a broke college student, I really don't have the money to pay for like a 4 or 5 plus day trip to Paris to watch a COD event. But this is definitely like a goal of mine in the future, to attend an event in Paris and London, because I've never been to London or anywhere outside of the country besides Paris and then Switzerland for 1 day. So I think it'd be really cool to experience. And I've also heard that London has the best COD fans in the world and the events are the most crazy. So I think it'd be super cool to obviously experience that, as well as possibly experiencing Paris again and then experiencing a COD event there. So yeah, this one's kind of special to me because it's kind of like my number one destination for where I'd love to go to a COD event. I've only been to the Champs event in LA in Black Ops 4 and then the Minnesota opening weekend. So to see somewhere out of the country and how they interact with COD would be, I think, super cool to see. So I'd love to attend that event. But before we get into the predictions, just some roster type of news that may affect the weekend. One will and one will have no effect. But first, it seems as though Classic is actually finally benched. Not that I'm saying he should be, because he's actually played really well this year, but there was that whole horrible situation going on that we talked about in the last episode with him not being allowed to scrim because he visited his family, which is just ridiculous, like we already talked about. But it seems like Kleenex is scrimming in place of Classic, which some of you might not really know Kleenex, especially if you're newer to the Call of Duty scene or haven't paid attention much in Black Ops 4, because the only time I had ever heard of him was Black Ops 4. He was on the Singularity team at Champs, and he was a SOG player, submachine gun player, and he was just absolutely cracked. He was just flying around the map, getting a bunch of kills. He helped to get Singularity into, I think, a top 16 or higher finish. They smoked some really good teams and played some other good teams very tough, and Kleenex was just flying all around the map, playing that super fast-paced sub role. So if he's as good as he is at, I mean, he was better than Classic was at Black Ops 4. I don't know if he's necessarily a better player than Classic in this game because we haven't seen him at all, but it'll be interesting to see if he does come in, because if he plays anything like he did with the SOG in Black Ops 4, he's going to play it in an extremely high, like Prestinni-like place where he is just flying all around the map, super fast-paced, and just getting in your face, and he might not go positive, but he's going to get a ton of engagements, which maybe that's what this Toronto team needs, especially if he is kind of like a heavier slayer. They do sometimes struggle in the slaying department, so adding some more kills on the map, if he is better than Classic, could be good. But again, this move doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because if the reason that Classic is getting benched is because he went to see his family, that's just ridiculous. A player getting benched because they wanted to see their family is about the dumbest thing I've ever heard, the dumbest reason to ever get benched. And he wasn't even playing bad this year. He's actually playing pretty well. But we'll see what Kleenex can do if he actually does play. I don't think that changes my opinion on what Toronto does too much this weekend, because Classic is a solid player but no superstar. And to me, Kleenex could be a solid player but isn't like a super upgrade over Classic is what I'm predicting. So I don't think it changes the outcome of their tournament too much. And then the other roster news that unless something crazy happens, won't affect this weekend at all. I heard on the Codcast that Gunless was on that he definitely has a team in mind, or it seemed like he had a team in mind, because there's people calling in, and Nameless and Pac-Man were saying like, yeah, we're not going to make you say what team you're going to if you have a team in mind. And then somebody, I don't remember if it was one of them or if it was a call-in question, said like, can you give us a first letter? And he kind of hesitated, and he was sitting there like smiling like, I don't know if I can give you a first letter. So I mean, obviously he has a team in mind that he either wants to go to, or the Huntsmen are in talks to trade him to or buy him out or whatever. If I had to take a guess, I would say he's probably going to Seattle or Optic. Seattle to replace Pander, or Optic to replace Chino. I think Pander obviously should be replaced by him. I think it'd definitely be an upgrade because he'd fit the submachine gun role better than Chino does, because that's really, I mean, Chino's just an AR player. That's what he is. But I don't necessarily think that Chino needs to be dropped if they're looking from a business standpoint, and it's going to cost a lot to get Gunless. I think they're pretty good with Chino and can maybe get a cheaper player, but I can understand the logic behind getting him on Optic. And then like a dark horse candidate I could see is Minnesota, especially with what is going on with Alex with the whole thumb injury thing. We don't know if that's going to be he's ready for the next event they plan, or if he's going to be sidelined for the season or whatever. So if Alex is definitely out for a while, I could see the like Minnesota being a dark horse type team, especially with Silly on the team being one of Gunless's good friends. It seems like they could play together again and probably work things out. And he would fit pretty well. That would be a really talented team. That's a team that seems to have super good teamwork, but it's just missing that superstar slayer. And Gunless is obviously a player that can be a superstar slayer. If Alex is fully healthy and playing up to his capabilities, he's been one of their best players, though. So it almost seems like Silly would be the odd man out, because Assault's going to stick as your main AR. Asim is that super aggressive sub, so he doesn't really seem replaceable because Gunless isn't going to play that role. And then you've got GodRx, who's been the best player on the team this year. I can't ever see him getting replaced because him and Gunless would kind of play the same type of role, and they'd be like the two slayers. And then Alex has been really good all year. If he's going to be healthy with a good thumb on his hand, he is going to be like one of their other better players this year, along with GodRx. So that kind of leaves Silly as that odd man out. I don't really think Silly deserves to be dropped. I think Silly's been an underrated player for the last how many years, since like Black Ops. I thought he was really good at World War II. I thought he had a chance at MVP at that event. Obviously, Assault wins it. But I don't think Silly really deserves to be dropped. But if it comes down to a situation where Alex is healthy, Gunless may go to Minnesota for Silly. So that's it for roster news. It seems like CleanX will play this weekend for Classic, like I said. Gunless, unless something crazy happens, won't be playing for any of the teams there this weekend, especially since I don't think Minnesota or Seattle are there in Paris. So two of the teams that he probably could join aren't going to be there. But we'll see where Gunless goes, and we'll see if CleanX plays. I'm excited to see CleanX because he did impress me a lot in Black Ops 4 Champs, and I thought he was for sure going to be on like a European team or something to start the year, and then franchising hit, and he was stuck on a bench. So I'm excited to see those guys play. If one or both play, hopefully at least one plays, just to give us something new to watch, especially on a team like Toronto that's not really a contender. But now that we've talked about a little bit of the roster changes and kind of what this event means and what we're looking at, we are going to go into the predictions. All right, so now here looking at our bracket, I'm going to attempt to do this. I don't know how smooth it'll go, but I am going to attempt to do the little bracket builder here through a little app, a little Xbox app, to try to record my screen here while we do the bracket predictions. We haven't done this at all, so if it's a little screwy with the way it goes, I apologize. But we will have to see how it goes. I think it should go pretty well. I hope you guys can see this screen, and I hope we're able to add this into video and I don't have to record it twice. But yeah, here we go with the bracket builder. We got the Paris Legion event here, and to start out in the Group A, I believe this is up top here. We've got Paris Legion versus Florida Mutineers. Now, I don't think this is going to be much of a close matchup, if we're being honest. Florida is coming off the high of a win, I think, with the hungry new players they have that don't have much event wins under their belt. They are going to probably stay hungry here, and I have them at like 3rd/4th kind of in my power rankings, and I think Paris is number 12, and I think they are a clear-cut number 12. So to me, I think that Florida wins this one. I'm gonna put Florida at a 3-0. I think that Paris doesn't win a map. I think Florida comes out high like they did last event, and they're just flat out more talented than Paris, so I think they get that win easy. And then coming down here to the London Royal Ravens versus the Dallas Empire, I think that this little Group A here with these three teams is really messing me up because, I mean, I don't think Paris is any good. I don't think they have any chance to make it out. But before this last event, I would have thought that Florida didn't really look that well. They didn't look that good, and I didn't think they'd have much of a chance. But now they're one of the favorites because they just won the last event, and they're a two-time champ. And then, as you all know, Dallas, you can make an argument. They're the best team in the game. I have them at number 2 in my power rankings still. They're clearly a top 3 team. Have potential to win an event anytime they're there. But I'm also really high on London. So this is a tough group for me because of these 3 teams. But I think that Dallas is just a better team than London. So I think they're going to win it. But I think Dallas is going to start a little slow. And I think that the Royal Ravens are going to win 2 maps in this series. Make it a close one. I could see the Royal Ravens being able to sneak this one off if Dallas does come out a little slow. But I have to go with Dallas here because Dallas is just the better team all year round. And they're a very good online team. Shotzi is just getting better and better. And I think Crim6 will improve this event. I think he played pretty poorly this past event Minnesota-wise. So I think that a player like him is not bound for too many bad events in a row. So I think he'll step it up. And even if he steps it up a little bit, Illy's been playing well, Clay's been playing well, and Hook and Shotzi have been playing amazing. So if Crim just steps it up a little bit, which he didn't even play that horrible, but if he steps up to like a normal Crim performance, I think that they'll be right up here and they'll be able to beat London. So then in the knockout one of this group, we've got Paris Legion versus Royal Ravens. I think you all know where I'm going here. I think that London wins this one. I'm going to give Paris a map just because I feel weird giving them 0 maps for the entire tournament, even though I could see that happening. But this matchup to me has upset potential because I think if London loses 3-2 to Empire, especially if it's in close maps, London with Scraps and his teams kind of tend to have a tendency to lose full pretty easily. So I think they might be pretty tilted. I know it'll be a Friday matchup and then a Saturday matchup, but I still think if they lose like a tight series and they feel like they should have won and they threw it, then I think that they might lose full. But I just think they're flat out a better team than Paris, so I think that they do win this 3-1. But I could see if you have the upset potential here and you want to go with the Boulder bracket and you have Paris winning this, I can see where you're coming from with the history of London and them seeming to lose full so much. So I could see Paris with upset potential, but I'm going to go 3-1 London Royal Ravens here, a team that I like a lot. And then we've got Florida Mutineers in this first qualifier match, Florida versus Dallas. We saw them play at the last event, and Florida was able to take them out 3-2, very close series. This is a tough one for me because I feel like the easy pick and the most common pick here is going to be these 2 teams matching up here and Dallas winning. And I still feel like Dallas is the better team. They've shown for longer that they're a very good team, longer than Florida has. But for some reason, I feel as though I should pick Florida just because they're coming off a hot event. But I think Dallas has something to prove, and they want to kind of maintain that spot as like a top 2 team and not let Florida take it over. So I think Dallas is going to win this matchup. And I'm going to put it at a 3-2, though. I definitely could see the Florida Mutineers winning this matchup. If they are anything like they played last event, they're clearly a very good team, clearly capable of beating Dallas. I have no doubt in my mind about that. But for some reason, I just feel that Dallas is more consistent, so I'm going to bet on the consistency over the recency bias. I'm a person, especially in Call of Duty, where things can be kind of fluky and people can have hot events. I'm a person that likes to see consistency before I start predicting you to do super well. I'll let you know I'm planning on going pretty bold with this bracket, though, so you'll kind of probably make me eat those words a little bit later. But I'm a person that likes to see consistency usually over the recency bias. It's just kind of how I am. And I think that Dallas has been more consistent than Florida, so I think they'd win 3-2. Wouldn't be shocked at all if Florida wins because, like I said, Florida could come out and smoke everyone this event and go back-to-back. With how good they looked last event, that's certainly possible, but they did win a lot of map 5s and a lot of close games. They won map 5 versus Huntsmen, map 5 versus Empire, and in a map 5, anything could happen, and they could easily lose one of those map 5s, especially against a good search team like Dallas. So see a little more consistency out of them, and maybe pretty soon I'll be picking them over Dallas every time. But then that brings us to this knockout match here in round 2 of Group A between Florida and the Royal Ravens, and here I'm going to have to go Florida. I think this will be a 3-2 matchup, though. I'm picking a lot of 3-2s, but I think, like I've said, I need to put some respect on London. I've been calling them one of like my sleeper teams. I think that they're a team that has like a dark horse potential to win an event every time. But I can't not have Florida getting out of groups, I feel like, due to the fact that, well, frankly, they won the last event, and now they're a 2-time. They have as many event wins as any other team in the league. and the roster only seems to be improving, and that was their first event together as a team with Awakening. So you'd have to believe that they're only going to get better, and the honeymoon period shouldn't be expired considering that they won their only event they've been to. So I have to feel like they're going to trend upward, and I think they're going to beat London 3-2. Kind of a heartbreaking exit for London if they exit the way I had them exiting, with losing 3-2 to Empire, then getting a win, and then losing 3-2 again to Florida. They're going to feel like they're so close. And once again, this isn't a hate on London. I think London's a great team. Just they run into two buzzsaws at two of the top 4 teams, in my opinion. So then going down here to Group B, we've got New York, Optic, Faze, and Ultra. Once again, to me, this is a super hard group to predict because I've got Faze as my number 1 team in my power ranking still, but then I've got Optic 5 and Subliners 6, so I have those two right up there, and I think that they're both event-winning potential teams. And then Ultra I had moving up, but I moved them back down in this last power rankings, and with a roster change, a tough group like this, I don't think they have much chance to make noise, but we'll get into the top matchup in the bracket first. That is the Subliners versus Optic. If you know anything about me, these are my two kind of like my favorite, not my favorite teams actually to cheer for, but like my favorite. I just have like just a weird bias, it seems like, towards them in a way. Not because I like Optic or like Subliners. I just like something about the players in the team. I always have faith that they're going to win. Slasher, Kenny, Dashy, TJ, even Chino, a very good player. A team with that caliber, I think, can win an event at any time. Even if they hadn't won a match the entire season, that a team with that talent would not shock me if they won an event. And then Subliners, a team with a good steady main AR like accuracy, and then players like Temp, Zuma, and Attach, and how disgusting Mac has been at this game. Another team that it feels like could step in any day with the talent. Even if they were horrible at the game, they could just randomly step in and win an event due to just the talent of the players and the caliber of the players. So this is a tough matchup for me to predict, but based on the bold way I'm going to predict this bracket, I'm going to have to say Optic wins this, and shocker, I'm going with another 3-2. And usually when I seem to pick so many 3-2s because I think a lot of matchups are going to be closer, and I think, frankly, I'm kind of just hoping that they're close. Rather than actually thinking they're going to be close, I'm just hoping for good matches to watch. But last weekend kind of proved 3-2s are pretty common. I think like 75% of the matches in this past Minnesota weekend were 3-2s. So I think a 3-2 happens here, frankly, because I think these are teams 5 and 6 in my power rankings, and I think they're honestly like a dead even matchup. But I think Optic's search will be a little better, and I think just the slaying power of Optic will carry them to this win, and I think they win it 3-2. So then Faze Ultra, not a whole lot to talk about here. Ultra makes a roster change. I don't know if it makes a huge difference because I think that Kleenex for Classic isn't really like a super negative or super positive impact. I think it's just a weird situation. I think the team's a little bit in turmoil with the whole thing that happened with Classic. So we are going to go Faze 3-0. I'll call it 3-0. Actually, no, I'm going to give Toronto a map because I think they might win the map 1 hardpoint or something, because Faze is a slow starting team, it seems like. So I'll give Ultra 1 map. But then that brings us down to the Subliners versus Ultra in the knockout 1 matchup here in Group B, and I think you all know where I'm going here. I'm going to go Subliners 3-1 again because I think Toronto... Actually, we're going to go 3-2. I think Toronto is, once again, a team that is very, very good at search and has enough slaying power with Cammy, Methods, those kind of guys, that they can stick with teams and they can beat anybody on any given time. I could see them beating Faze. I could see them beating Empire, Huntsmen, whoever they're playing. But I just think with the roster change, they're going to be a little off, a little learning curve. And I just flat out think New York's a better team. And I can't see New York getting double bopped out of a tournament, especially when they're trying to climb the standings to not start in losers at champs. So I think New York wins this 3-2. Wouldn't be completely shocked if Toronto wins this, but I feel pretty confident in a New York pick here. So Ultra is double bopped out the tournament. And then in the little winners qualifier match here in Group B, we've got Optic versus Faze. Oh, this is a tough prediction for me because Faze is my best team, but I want to go a little bold so you have something to actually watch and not have the most chalk bracket you've ever seen. Chalk kind of being like March Madness, like you pick just the higher seed every time is what I mean by that. Not chalked in the COD community sense. But I think that Faze is the better team here consistency-wise, which I know I just went on a rant about how I like to go over like whole season consistency over recency bias. But I don't know, something about this Optic team and the crazy talent they have and the way they've been constantly making runs to top 4 recently with their new roster with Chino. I think they're going to win this 3-2. Shocker, another 3-2. But I'm going to go Optic here, just also, frankly, because I want to go kind of bold with my predictions. And I don't want to have like the same chalk bracket, because to me, I think it'd be really easy to pick Faze as the winner out of this group, Empire as the winner out of the other group, then like Optic and Florida as the losers. That'd be the easy way, but I'm going to go a little bold and kind of try to go a little different and not just make the easy way out and say, oh, I was right with all the easiest picks. So I think Optic wins this 3-2. I think that Faze is probably able to take that second search after Optic takes the first hard point, so I think it'll be probably 1-1. And then I think Faze is actually going to take that the domination to go up 2-1, and then I think Optic's going to win a hard point and then a search back-to-back in order to win this 3-1. I think Slasher takes over. I think he's just going to be an absolute unit this weekend like he has been the last few events. I think he takes over this match and wins it for him, 3-2. So then in the knockout round 2 matchup in Group B, we've got a good one. We've got Attach and Zuma versus their old team of how many years? Faze. 3+ years, I think they're both on Faze. So we got this matchup. It's a matchup of extreme talent. Temp, Zuma, Attach, Mac versus Simp and Abizi and Celium and Major and all these talented players. I think Faze gets the better of them here. We have yet to see Faze not make it out of their group, and I don't think that changes here. I wanted to go 3-2 because I want to give some respect to subliners, but I think Faze finally realizes, like, okay, now we're in losers. We didn't come out in winners like we always do. We need to get our stuff together here. And they win this one 3-1. New York puts up a good fight. And once again, another good performance from New York this weekend, as I think they play Optic tight, then beat Ultra, and then they play Faze pretty tight in all the maps, but they just once again run into the fact that they have to play Optic and Faze to get out, and they kind of get screwed with their draw, and they're stuck here. And they lose 3-1. So then over here in my semifinals, we've got the winner of Group A, the Empire, versus the loser of Group B, which would be the Atlanta Faze. This is probably the matchup of the two best teams in the league, in my opinion. They're 1 and 2 in my power rankings. Faze was able to take out Dallas just last weekend, 3-2 in a reverse sweep. But to me, I swear even though Faze made the final, I think Empire looked better the entire weekend overall, just the way that they played. I just think Crim6 kind of let the team down with his play. I don't think Crim6 lets the team down very often, and I don't think he does it in back-to-back weekends. So I think he steps it up, and all the players continue to be consistent the way they have been, and I think Empire wins this one. I'm going to go 3-1. I know a lot of people are going to pick Faze for this one because I think there's a lot of Faze fans, and I think there's a lot of people that just know Faze is still their number one team. But I'm going to say 3-1. I think that Faze maybe takes the second map search, and Empire gets hardpoint, Dom, and hardpoint. Gets all the respawns. By no means do I think this is a locked-in pick. I could easily see Faze winning this at any map count, 3-0, 3-1, 3-2. But something just tells me Faze is just a little rusty. They didn't look, I mean, they made a final last event, but they did not look, they've just progressively looked a little bit worse each event. They're still obviously making finals and semifinals because they're a team with ridiculous talent. They're going to continue to make it out of their group probably every time they play, just based off pure talent. But I think Empire's playing better as a team right now, and their talent is almost at the level of Faze. And with that good team structure they have, I think that they make it out here. Kind of a bold prediction to not have Faze in a final, but I think that it's not a horrible one. And then here, I think we've got the most interesting matchup of the tournament, in my opinion. We've got two kind of wildcard teams. We've got Optic, who's made it to a final and a top 4 in back-to-back events that they've played at. And we've got Florida, who won an event earlier in the year and then looked horrible and then all of a sudden picked up Awakening and won another event. I think a lot of people are going to want to pick Florida here to get to back-to-back finals, and I think that's a super valid pick. But I said I was going bold this bracket, and I'm taking Optic to win this one 3-2. I think that, actually I'm going to say 3-1. I've been picking too many 3-2s. I can't just bail out and say it's even matchups. I've only picked, let's see here. I think I picked 1-3-0. Yeah, Legion to get 3-0. But I've been picking a lot of 3-1s, 3-2s just because that's how this year's gone. We haven't had a lot of 3-0s recently. But I'm going to pick Optic over the Mutineers 3-1 here. I think that this is an extremely even matchup. I think talent-wise, Optic has more talent. But teamwork-wise, I think Florida plays better together. I think talent outweighs the teamwork a little bit in this one because I don't think Optic's teamwork is horrible, and I think it's progressively getting better. I think this is a super even matchup. I would not be shocked at all if Florida is able to take this one at any map count. I think that You could definitely make an argument they're better than Optic. I have them at number 3 in my power rankings and Optic at 5. So clearly, I even have them higher ranked. But for some reason, I just think that Slasher is an absolute takeover mode. And like people were saying at the last, not Minnesota, but the event before that Optic was at, they could have easily won that event. They were just a better dashy performance away because Chino played as well as he needs to. Then we had TJ playing better than he has all year. We had Kenny playing extremely well, and then Dashy kind of had a slightly off weekend, and kind of like I said with Crim6, but even more so with Dashy and the type of player he is, I can't see him having another off weekend. So I think that Dashy steps it up. I think all the other players stay the same, and I think Slasher's in super MVP form, and they get the win here. So that leads us to Crim versus his old Optic team. I think that this is such a tough matchup because Dallas is definitely the better team. They're super good online. They have 2 event wins this year, and Optic has none. Obviously, Optic's been to 1 final. I believe Dallas has been to 3. I think they won 2 and lost the 1 to the Huntsmen. They've been to 3 or 4 finals. It's going to be a 3-2 matchup, but I said I'm going bold, so I'm picking Optic to win this 3-2. I feel like with teams like Empire and Faze at this event, and then the defending champ Mutineers, it's really easy to pick one of those teams. But I'm not super confident in this pick because if I had to make like my life was on the line, I'd probably pick Empire just because of how consistent they've been, or Faze because of how consistent they've been. But to me, I feel like I wanted to pick Mutineers or Optic to win this and kind of go a little bold. And I think I'm going to say Optic gets their first event win at this tournament right here. I think it's a crazy, crazy close matchup. And if it goes game 5, I feel like Empire have the advantage, even though I'm picking Optic here because Empire is a better search team. But here's what I think happens. I think it's a super close matchup. Optic wins at 3-2. Wouldn't be shocked if Empire win at all. Wouldn't be shocked if Optic's not even in the final. To be honest, wouldn't even be shocked if Optic doesn't get out of groups because I could see New York and FaZe getting out of their group. But we want to go bold here, so we're going Optic to win it. I think that Slasher wins the MVP at this event. I don't think it's close. Slasher, the last 2 events when they've made the semifinal and the final, has been in unreal form. You can make an argument he's been the best they are in the game in those 2 tournaments. I think Slasher continues his unreal form. I think he wins MVP for Optic here, and they get their first event win. So that is going to do it for this podcast. This was the prediction show. We tried to do this little screen capture kind of thing where we recorded our bracket. And we have Optic winning, so I hope you guys enjoyed the little bracket recording to kind of make the video version of this podcast here a little more interactive. But be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe for some more CDL podcast content, and also comment down below your thoughts. Who do you have winning this event? Do you have any bold predictions? Do you think Empire, FaZe, or somebody like that's going to get bounced in groups? Do you think Empire, FaZe, Mutineers, or some other team are going to win it? Do you think Subliners are going to sneak through and win their first event? So just let me know down in the comments what you guys think, what you guys thought of this little format here, and overall just your thoughts on the weekend. And make sure to comment down below any other hot takes you have. If you saw my last video, you could comment over there. Go check that out. That's the reaction video. This is only coming out a day after that, so that video is, still valid. Minnesota just happened. So go check out that reaction video. And thank you guys for watching. I look forward to a very good weekend of Call of Duty this weekend. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching this and have fun watching this weekend. We'll see you in the next one.